Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations as always to the elect, the remnant. All right, you brothers and sisters who are coming back to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in these latter days. All right, Yahweh. All right, through the sacrifice made by his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, through whom in these latter days we have received the Holy Spirit, Rachakwadash, to fulfill a great prophecy and standing on our feet, okay, as a great spiritual army, preaching, prophesying, repenting, and coming back to our power, all right, which marks the very end of Esau's world. As the scriptures say, we will be set in order before his eyes. And that's what's exactly happening. And this is why the elite are moving very, very fast to establish what we know as their NWO, okay, which is going to be a new system, okay, in which they describe as a fourth industrial revolution, which we've done videos on that. And then in that, new industry, all right, human beings, okay, will be upgraded, will be changed. Your biology will be linked with technology, okay? And as you do research and you see what they're trying to do, okay, it's centered around being the Most High God, okay, and tracking, okay, knowing where his subject is at all times, having his subject, his digital or carbon footprint tracked and traced throughout the earth, being able to limit, okay, restrict, cut off, and act as a God over all of the Heavenly Father's creation, including human beings. And if he's able to do that, he can change the outcome of the story and set up himself as a God in the earth and ultimately establish a pseudo birthright where the Most High has cut out the process. And that's what they've done through their philosophies, through their way of life, through the culture, through everything. The philosophies that run this world are all centered around rebellion against the Heavenly Father. Okay? Now, when you deal with the subject of human branding, I'm going to just read this real quick. And as you see, it says human branding or stigmatizing. Human branding or stigmatizing. So if you've been watching our videos, what can this tie to? Okay? The MOTB. Because within the code left to us by John the Revelator, okay, Chi Psi Stigma, what we found out is that stigma, okay, as you can see here, Chi Psi Stigma, all right, the number associated with the beast, to where he will be able to put his name on you, to put his brand on you, okay, is associated with Chi Psi Stigma. And we always go into stigma to show you that it is associated with an ancient system of worship where the subject put a particular brand, okay, on his skin, on his body. For what purpose? Let's get it real quick. All right, stigmatize. And when I saw that, immediately the spirit took me down a rabbit hole that I plan to share with you brothers and sisters, and hopefully you be edified. Okay, now this word stigma, all right, we can just go here to this scripture. Stigma, okay, is a mark pricked or branded upon the body, okay, to ancient Oriental usage. So this is an ancient custom. Now, when we speak about the MOTB, okay, we have to ask ourselves, how the apostles of Great Millstone break this thing down, and knowing history, okay, if the Greeks and the Romans and the Egyptians all had systems, where they branded their subjects, what would be the modern day version of that? Okay? As a matter of fact, before we get this definition, let's expound upon that thought via a precept, because we got to hit more precepts. All right? This is Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that have been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done, all right, is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Okay, there is no new thing under the sun. Now, when you deal with the subject of the RFID chip, okay, pursuant to Revelation, the first chapter and the first verse, John the Revelator saw something that the world has never saw in the future being issued forth, okay, as a modern day branding. But it was a physical thing, device that he saw. And we're going to tap into that. Okay? So it says a mark pricked or branded upon the body. So this system is nothing new. The system of branding, okay, or stigmatizing is nothing new. However, this version, pursuant to Revelation, the 13th chapter, all right, is something that the earth has never seen. An idol that will actually be put in human beings. And they're boasting in that idol. A mark pricked or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master. So, Naquam was making a big fuss about we don't go into the name. Well, if you take this mark, his name is on you. His brand is on you. Taking the mark is putting his name on you, bowing to him as your God. And we'll get into oaths, okay, and various different things that or it should be very clear that this is the proper breakdown received through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, given to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders for us to have as we've entered into their labors, man. This is very important. It says, slaves and soldiers bore the name or stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token to their gods. So as you see here, recognition of ownership. Okay? Stigma is recognition of ownership. You can't leave that out and not tie it to what we see before us. Stizo, stick, prick, a mark incised or punched. So this is a physical thing. Scar. Okay, when you cut into the body, scar tissue develops, which is the natural way the Lord has the body to heal. Okay, now, yeah, we already went into that. Now, again, let's go back to this that was stigma we just read. So human branding or stigmatizing, which to stigmatize, okay, transitive verb, to characterize. And when you go to the ancient, like the brother brought out a Bible from the 1300s, the word was character, charagma, character. All right, but to characterize or brand as a disgraceful or ignominious to mark with stigma, stigmata, or stigma, to cause stigmata to appear, a mark with a stigma or brand. To produce red points, sometimes bleeding, in or on, as a person or the skin stigmatized. Okay, so this is dealing with branding. Okay, this is dealing with branding. So going back to the definition of human branding as we have it here, human branding or stigmatizing. I'm not going to stop going into that word. Okay, stigmatizing is physical. Dealing with the skin is the process by which a mark, usually a symbol or ornamental pattern, okay, like something physical, something visible you can see, pattern is burned into the skin of a living person with the intention that the resulting scar makes it permanent. This is performed by using a very cold or hot branding iron, okay, branding iron. It therefore uses the physical techniques of livestock branding on a human. Okay, now when we go to the definition of charagma here in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, in the 16th verse, it says, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. Now, if the image and the mark were the same thing, there would be no need for John the Revelator to, after he talks about the image living and the worshiping of it, to speak about the mark. It's not the same thing. Okay? It's not the same thing. And we never taught that. Okay? The image, as we always bring out, of the beast is the ways, the philosophies, the political system, the culture, the thought process, okay, the blasphemy, everything of ancient Rome, okay, which they were humanist. What do you think the Age of Enlightenment with the British was all about? Okay, all of those so-called scientists were raised up to fight the notion that there's a creator and to bring in this humanism or humanist concept. That all goes back to Rome. Humanist goes back to Rome. And that's big here in this world. Okay? So people worship the image by bowing to those philosophies and ideologies and theories as well. So the mark doesn't deal with philosophies. The mark, it says here, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that have the mark, or the name of the beast, or his number, the number of his name. Okay, which numbers, letters were branded onto what? Cattle. Now, when you look up the word charagma, which there's various words for mark in the Greek, okay, why was this one used? Why did the Lord bring this to us? Charagma, or character, or charax. Okay, charax, the root goes into, all right, we'll show you. So it says a stamp, an imprinted mark, the stamp stamped on the forehead as, or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the anti-Messiah, which that goes back to the Greco-Roman system. You see? But John the Revelator saw a modern version of this and presented it to you in a vision so you can look at the times you're in and link things up. The mark branded up on horses. Now I have here, okay, real quick. See if I can bring this up. Okay, I typed in why are animals branded? Okay, animal branding This is off of their own websites, okay? They're telling you. Branding is used as a property stamp identifying the stock breeder as the owner of the animal, okay? The owner of the animal. By branding the animals, ranch owners are expressing the animal's legal conditions as mere or as slaves. There are many types of branding, including iron branding, fire. Okay? So there you go. Branding, property marking. Is that something I already have up? Let's see here. Yeah, I have that already. Okay. We'll go into that, but so this thing is linked to a system of branding horses or cattle or animals. Okay, which that is an ancient system as well. But what was the system predicated upon? Okay. To identify the stock breeder as the owner of the animal. Okay, and he wants to breed human beings via technology. He wants to take the women out of the process of birth. They're even talking about using brain dead people as surrogates to bring children into the earth. Okay, this man is absolutely mad. And you all expect the MOTB, okay, to be something that makes sense. You know, you listen to these guys and they make it seem as though we're saying the MOTB is a great idea, as if the devil does things that make sense. Anyway, so we'll get this out of the way. And I'll go here. Let's go back here. Human branding. Okay. Human branding or stigmatizing. There you go, man. So this uses the physical techniques of livestock branding on a human, either with consent as a form of body modification or under coercion as a punishment, or to identify an enslaved, oppressed, or otherwise controlled person. And we know everything is going to be on this new identity. And they're already, all right, since 2020, been using digital ID as the new wave, the new way you will live. All you have to do is type it in. Are we making this up? Let's just type in digital. It's on their government website. Okay. Go to news. Okay. I mean, it's clear as day. Okay. Thailand approves mobile digital ID for air travel. 95% of Indians and Indonesians hold digital IDs, and all of the kings of the earth are coming together to bring this technology, all right, to the forefront of how their world is going to be ran. Let's go to Google. Let's see, they didn't water down DuckDuckGo. All right, but you type in digital ID, boom. UK set stage for future digital ID legislation. Okay. 2 EU digital ID awarded to launch. Boom. I mean, all we have to do is look at, okay, so you will be identified, okay, via a digital ID, which, okay, we know is going to be on your phone. All right. But eventually, as John the Revelator saw, he saw this system, okay, come in a form of a mark that ultimately you will be forced to take if you want to buy and sell. If not, all right, we see the atmosphere in Revelation 20 is that you will be beheaded. So let's go back real quick and read a little bit more of this in this particular article here on Wikipedia. It says, yeah, controlled person. It says it may also be practiced as a rite of passage within a tribe or to signify membership or acceptance into an organization. And what is their organization? The NWO. As a matter of fact, I have this video, and I forget this devil's name. It's funny, he's a character, but check him out. Oath required. This is all for 2 through and information. Subscribe.
Most people forget the United Nations Religious Charter by David Spangler in 1978 said no one will enter into the New World Order, global reset, without a Luciferic initiation and without a pledge of allegiance to Lucifer.
A pledge of allegiance to Lucifer. Okay, which we know that's Satan at the end of the day. Okay, that's Satan. Now, let's go here. Marking the rightless. All right, those who don't have rights. Okay. It says the origin may be the ancient treatment of a slave, often without legal rights, as livestock. And what is livestock? Okay. So individuals will be treated as livestock. Now, when you go back to Nimrod, all right, you can learn a lot about him, about the particular cities he established. And one of them, when you go to the name of the meaning of the city he established, it was a bridle. Okay, bridle. What do you put on a wild beast or horse? A bridle, to control it. Okay. So you were going to be viewed as something without rights. You're going to be viewed as just a livestock. Okay, and you will be marked. It says European American. All right. European American and other colonial slaves branded millions of slaves during the period of the Atlantic slave trade. Sometimes there were several brandings. Okay. Cross after baptism, as well as African slave catchers, which we know, those Israelites. Now here's something important. Ancient Romans marked runaway slaves with the letters FVG or fuge or fugitivus. All right, which when you go to the movie Spartacus, okay, which is dealing, which those were Israelites. All right, but it's dealing with that Roman system. Okay. A fugitivus was a runaway slave who had escaped from their owner. Escaped slaves who were captured could be flogged or even executed or given lesser sentences, such as being sold as gladiators or conscripted to the mines. Okay. Which, John the Revelator, as he received this vision on the Isle of Patmos, he was a slave, all right? And his punishment was what? He was taken to the salt mine, okay? Now, as you can see, you have fugitive type, written out on his forehead, okay? Let's see here. Fugitivus in Latin. Okay. Runaway, which takes you to the term drapeta. Which drapeta, let's see here, means runaway slave, which if you understand and know about this particular term, drapetomania, all right, that was something that ultimately, the slave owners or Esau was able to, place on those who desired to run away. They put a particular terminology on them. Okay, they gave them a diagnosis: drapetomania, the desire of slaves to run away, viewed as a mental illness. And the term drepto goes back to Rome. So we're literally in Rome again. Okay? And it's funny how they're going to be able to put a mental diagnosis on those in this time who are against their enterprise. They're already doing it. But if you look up drapetomania, see here. This was brought about in the 1800s. Was a supposed mental illness that in 1851, American physician Samuel A. Cartwright hypothesized as the cause of enslaved Israelites fleeing captivity. So if you flee captivity, you would be known as, you would be one with drapetomania. That's how crazy this devil is. And he's able to, in these times, use his medical field, okay, to label people with views opposed to his NWO is crazy. Okay? I just thought that was interesting. Okay? And this character in this movie was Curzon, if you remember that movie, Spartacus. So the Romans, as we're finding out here, they marked their slaves. Okay? Which is something I just found out. I knew the Greeks did it, but I never, it's something the spirit never got on me to go into the Romans doing it. Now, if the Romans and the Greeks did it, and we are in the revived of Rome Empire, revival of Rome, what's the modern day way of this? Let's see here. Robbers like runaway slaves were marked by the Romans with the letter F, and toilers in the mines and convicts condemned to figure gladiatorial shows were branded on the forehead for identification. So wait a minute. In ancient Rome, they were branded for identification. Under Constantine, the face was not permitted to be disfigured, so the branding being on an arm, hand, or calf. Wow. So we seen that happen here in America, like movies like Antebellum, as you can see here. And they did this big time to you Israelite women. Somehow you're in love with them in these times. But there you go. All right. As a punishment in criminal law, branding with a hot iron was made of punishment consisting of marking the subject as if goods or animals, meaning you're going to be a product or you're just another cattle amongst their livestock, what they own. Sometimes concurrently with their reduction of life status. So we know what they're trying to do with this modern day version of this is reduce your access to goods, to life. Okay, and this has happened before, all right? But it's just never been an idol or a particular device put in you. Okay, this is what, that Amalekite Noah Harari said. He said the tyrants of the old time didn't have the technology we have. Now we have the ability, okay, to track and put our idols in the people. Okay? Now, it says branding or property marking. The permanent marking of livestock or goods using a distinctive design by hot or super chilled metal, chemical, tattoo, or paint for the purposes of identification. In agricultural usage, it may include tagging and notching. Brands are applied to animals principally to establish ownership, but they are also used for keeping records, identification, disease control, age differentiation. Professional animal breeders sometimes adopt brands as trademarks to indicate high standards of quality. Okay, and this goes back to what? The earliest that these people have found this practice goes back to Egypt. Okay? In the 16th century, it came to the Americas. And America is Egypt, and America is Rome. And what we found out about Egypt, okay, let's go here real quick. As a matter of fact, let me get these particular articles out of here. Get that out of here. And we're going to get this too. But what we found out about Egypt was that slaves were brutally branded in ancient Egypt, research shows. So the Lord had it to where in 2022, okay, as we getting closer to that charagma, this particular research came out that while many people branded cattle and other livestock with the burning iron, slaves in ancient Egypt also suffered the same fate. And the Lord said that we would be in a spiritual Egypt. Okay, we would be in a spiritual Egypt. I will bring you into Egypt again with ships. Deuteronomy 28:68, Revelation 11:8, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Joel, the 3rd chapter, and the final 2 verses. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. Edom runs the modern day Egypt, which is Babylon the Great. Okay, and the Greco-Roman Empire were known to get their gods and their way of life in a lot of ways from the ancient Egyptians. Okay, it says here, Egyptian texts referred to some evidence of slave marking, which provided insight contrary to the previous belief that tattoos were used to mark slaves. Ancient Egyptian dynasties hold on to 3 types of slaves. Slaves who were prisoners of war, slaves who sold themselves or their children into slavery to settle debts, and slaves who were owned by the state but received wages. All right. The Bible also tells the story of the Israelites who were enslaved by Pharaoh, who feared their spreading across the land and taking over control. Beautiful. Okay, so going back here. Okay, now it says here, brands are applied to animals principally to establish ownership. You look up the word ownership. Okay. The legal relation between a person, individual, group, corporation, or government and an object. Okay. The object may be corporeal, such as furniture, or the completely the creature of law, such as a patent, okay, a copyright, or annuity. All right, it may be movable, such as an animal, all right, or immovable, such as a land. So they can own, moving things or lands. It can become their property through ownership. Now, when you go, let's go back to the book of Revelation, dealing with the charagma. Okay, so let's read it again real quick, and we'll go back into the word. Okay, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, so he saw an ancient branding system being brought to the forefront to where a charagma would be issued forth. And when you look up this word charagma, we find out that it's physical. All right, it's an adulterous image. It's a thing carved. Okay, he didn't see a philosophy. He saw a physical device. Okay, and another place where this word is used is here in Acts 17 and 29. Okay, for as much then as we are the offspring of God, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone graven by a man's device. Let's look at this word's device. Graven, charagma, okay, by a man's device. Let's look up this word device.
Strong's G 1761. Enthumesis. Enthumesis.
Device, thought, a thinking, consideration. Interesting. A cognition and inward reasoning. And we know this technology is all centered around, okay, the control of thought. Okay, the control of the brain. But this thing that John saw, okay, in another scripture, this mark is physical. It's literally a physical graven work. Okay. Now, real quick, I want to play this video and then I'll get another few scriptures. This is did ancient Romans use tattoos? Okay.
Let's have a look at all of these. Slaves who had tried to escape, for example, or otherwise angered their masters could be branded or tattooed. Phrases such as "stop me, I'm a runaway" could be a typical example. These tattoos or branding could be applied to their arms, to their wrists, but also on their forehead. We have a very descriptive account of this on the 5th mime of Chirondas, who was a Greek poet of the 3rd century BC. Here's what he tells us. He's describing a mistress threatening to tattoo her slave, who was also her lover, because she was betrayed. Let's read it. "Bring him back here, tied up just as you took him, and tell Kosis, the brander, to come here with his needles and ink. We will have you multicolored in one operation. Gag him and hang him up, this fine, clever slave. Since he doesn't know what sort of a man he is, he will know very soon when he reads the inscription on his forehead." So this practice of branding and tattooing slaves to better control them was common both in ancient Greece and in ancient Rome, because it made it harder for slaves to run away. It would basically make fugitives have to work 3 times harder and to hide these parts. And as I say, the forehead, pretty difficult to hide. I mean, if you go around with a hood covering your forehead and a soldier sees you, because remember, Roman legionaries also function as police, if you think about it. So if a Roman legionary sees you and you're covering your head, trying to run away, he'll probably stop you. Tattoos were also used to mark ownership. So you would put the initials of the master on top of the slave, so you know, okay, so this slave belongs to this man. Still in the situation where you could find the slave in a place and you needed to return it to your master.
And this modern day version of that number, okay, is associated with 666, okay, which the apostles have brought it out. Okay, that's linked to a barcode system to where you can make something trackable, all right, or a device. You can make, all right, a human being, okay, a trackable product within a grid, within a system. Okay? That's the number. That's the name, his name being put on you. Okay? And we know it all deals with the the altering of the inward code. I'll say that as well. That's what they've been trying to do. That's what they're setting up. Okay, let's go back.
But interestingly enough, some slaves that were sold to other provinces and sometimes even outside of the Republic or the Empire were branded with the sentence, taxes paid. As an alternative to tattooing, slaves were often marked with either a branding with hot iron or iron collars.
And today, they will use, all right, this identification system to know your status on everything, and for the carbon consumption and that agenda, to be able to track and limit, all right, how many how much resources you're able to consume, or how far you can travel in the earth. It's a satanic system. Yeah, we know it's crazy, but when did the devil, ever do something that made sense?
Did the Roman legionaries have tattoos on their bodies? Well, was it this idea sort of pushed by the media? Because in the very popular film Gladiator, we have two instances. One, we see a Roman with the word SPQR, so Senatus Populusque Romanus, tattooed on his body. And then we see even the general, the Legatus Maximus, with a tattoo on his body. So is this plausible? Well, we do actually have some evidence, literary evidence. This one here, and the sort of textual evidence that I'm referring to is from Publius Flavius Vegetius Renatus, very famous late Roman writer, who writes the epitome of military science. And here is what he says. The recruit, however, should not receive the military mark as soon as enlisted. He must first be tried if fit for service. After their examination, the recruits should then receive the military mark.
All right, and it's well known that people who join the U.S. military, what do they get? A lot of them. Okay? Charagma, man. On some level. Devices. See? So we're definitely in Rome all over again. Okay, now with the beast receiving power to do miracles and all of this technology, what would Satan do or create on earth to set up this kind of system, but to where, all right, it could be perpetually and forever and on a grid? I mean, come on now. As a matter of fact, let's just look up military soldiers microchipped. All right, this is an article here. U.S. military seeking implantable microchips in soldiers. This was in 2012. And I remember a brother, all right, or a guy walked up to the brothers in a particular camp to tell them that he put many of them in him. Right? The U.S. government is developing implantable sensor chips for use in American troops, supposedly to monitor their health on the battlefield. The Defense Advanced Research, all right, Projects Agency announced earlier this year seeking proposals. But critics of a scheme are speaking out, warning the new technology could just be a prelude to expanding the use of related devices among general population with dangerous implications for freedom and privacy. Okay, so this was in 2012. Okay. We ain't touching that one. U.S. Army Surgeon General says all American soldiers will be for full-time monitoring and information calling. Yeah, and they're even linking it to the charagma, but I guess this means that we got the breakdown from them. There's an explosion of wearable and soon-to-be implantable monitors. Anyway, We see it happening now. All right. But back then, okay, it was a tattoo.
And then still Vegetius continues by saying that legionaries were, open quotes, inscribed with permanent dots in the flesh, close quotes. The director of Archaeological Museum and Roman expert Lindsay Allison Jones said that all of the regular legionaries and many of the auxiliary troops assigned to the Hadrian's Wall were tattooed. Now, as we see this, we also have to consider one thing, though. We don't know what these military insignia actually looked like. Probably there was some sort of emblem, something that would declare to the world first that you are a soldier, which again made mutiny or any form of desertion very difficult. Now, this was interesting because it had sort of a double effect. It was a sign of honor, and by the way, it would probably be on the arms, as far as we understand. It would be a sign of honor because you're proud to belong perhaps to a very successful legion that had done some great things, so people can immediately see, oh, wow, you belong to that famous legion, so you must be a great man. You must be a...
And who are you going to belong to in this sense? Okay, you're going to make an oath, okay, to Esau. All right, now, to understand this is the book of Deuteronomy 29 and 12. It says that thou shouldest enter into a covenant with Yahweh thy God, and to his oath, which Yahweh thy God maketh with thee this day. All right, and an oath, when you go into the Hebrew, is Allah. All right. Oath of covenant, curse from God, execration. All right. Swearing. So basically, by taking this charagma, you're going to be swearing an oath unto this particular God, which that's what the branding system was all about. Okay. You ultimately declaring that you're owned by this particular master. Oath, solemn promise of invoking a divine witness regarding one's future action or behavior. And this is the NWO, a new world where humans will be identified differently. Okay? And you, by taking this, are making a solemn oath that this is your God. Okay. And regarding your future, you don't mind being entered into his grid, his NWO. You're making an oath by doing this. That's why it is likened unto an idol. Okay. That's why it's likened unto an idol. Okay. In times past, okay, they would take particular, physical carvings or particular things, and you would bow to those things as idols. You would make an oath to those things. Just like in Daniel, the 3rd chapter, Nebuchadnezzar erected an idol. You see? He erected an idol. As a matter of fact, let's get that real quick. In Daniel, the 3rd chapter. Daniel, the 3rd chapter, in the 1st verse. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, the breadth 6 cubits, and he set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Okay, and he, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, the rulers of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image which he had set up. Now let's look up the word dedication. Okay. Chanukah. All right. Chanukah or Hanukkah. Okay. Dedication. Corresponding to Chanukah, dedication, consecration. Let's look up this word consecration. Okay. Salakia. It says the action of making or declaring something, typically a church, sacred. Okay. And the church of Satan is being set up on the planet Earth. Okay. The action of ordaining someone to a sacred office, typically of a bishop. So you'll be upgraded. Okay? You'll be upgraded. Okay? And that's how you were to view this idol. Okay? The dedication of the image, which was a physical thing. Tazalam, okay? An idol or an image. Okay? Something physical. Which again, when you go to the root word, image, empty. In a likeness, a resemblance. So it's something you can look at. Okay? Which we know, pursuant to the word charagma in Acts, is used to describe something created by man and ultimately an idol of gold or silver. So Nebuchadnezzar, he, had a physical idol that men were going to bow to. Okay, what John the Revelator is seeing is, all right, a physical idol being threatened to be put inside of you. And that's how you're going to buy and sell. Okay, and we know what John, our big brother John, tells us about idols. Okay, let's get it real quick. In the book of, forget where it's at, 1 John chapter 5 and 21. Okay, little children, keep yourselves from idols. Okay, aman, idolon, image, likeness, whatever represents the form or an object, imagery, a false god, image of an heathen god. Okay? So, an image for worship. An image for worship. Form, kind, appearance, something you can see. It's a, look, this it's a to see, behold, to look. It's something you can see. Okay? So we're supposed to keep ourselves from these physical things, all right, that can be, declared a way to upgrade you or declared sacred or a god or something you pledge to. And that's how you're going to make a pledge to this NWO. That's what John the Revelator saw. Okay? He saw an idol, a thing carved, okay, in the future being used to change how you buy and sell, which buying and selling is just one aspect, but that's how most people are going to be lured into it, because that deals with the flesh, that deals with how you eat and how you make your money. Okay? But we know they have it set of a system of ownership. You see? Let's get the book of, let's type in the all. Okay? Which we always bring this out, but when a servant wanted to stay with his master, so I'll go to the one, Exodus 21:6 and 21:5. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. He wanted to stay with his master. Then his master shall bring him to the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door, unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore in his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. See, you shall serve him forever via a digital awl. Back then, okay, even in our law, it was a physical thing that was linked and bore into your ear. Okay? For the purpose of what? You serving him forever. And we all know the devil has a God complex. Now, when you look up this word all real quick, because we like to go into history. We'll go into a little history on this. Maratazai. an awl, a boring instrument. Now, when you look it up, okay, I looked it up. Let's look up the images of it. Pretty much you would put an earring in their ear, or, you know, some sort of pointed. Okay, look how it looks. Okay, it's a pointed. Okay, it's a pointed. As you can see here, and he shall serve him permanently. See if this pulls up. So you can see it. That was the way of you basically doing what? When you go to it, in all, it's mentioned only 2 times in the Bible. Here are the references: Exodus 21:6, Deuteronomy 15:17. The all is simply another spelling for all. Okay, and when you go here, this is a small tool with a long, sharp point used for making holes. However, in the Bible examples, it was clearly used to make a hole in the ear of the Hebrew servant who wanted to give up his chance to go free and surrender a lifelong servant to his master. And that's what you'd be doing if you take this chip. Okay? Basically, it was a sign of voluntary slavery. Okay? The servant was brought to a doorpost, and the master would place the servant's ear against the wood, and he would bore an awl in his ear. We are not told whether the servant placed an ornament, such as an earring, in his pierced ear. According to the Encyclopedia of Biblical, Theological, Ecclesiastical Literature, it was the practice in Lydia, India, Persia, all right, to perforate the ears of boys dedicated to the service of the gods. So these ancient practices are back today. Also, the other Oriental countries employed the piercing of the ear as a sign of perpetual servitude. Okay? Now, let's go back here. So that's what this is what he's going to issue forth. Okay? This is what he's going to issue forth, man. It's clear. And that will mark as you serving him. As a matter of fact, the heathen have always had idols and images that we were to bow to. This is why we have a law. Leviticus 26:1. You shall make no idols or graven images. Okay? Graven images were made by artificers, artificial, which ties with artificial intelligence. Neither rear up you a standing image, neither shall ye set any image of stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. And this is ultimately what you're going to do. Okay, you're going to, pretty much show you worship the image fully by taking his mark. That word bow down is shakha, to bow down, to prostrate before a superior in homage, before God and worship, before false gods. And the false god in this sense is Esau Edom and his technology. Okay? It says, neither shall you set up any images of stone. This is Eliot. All right, let's see what Henry's usually good. He's just long-winded. Let's see here. Let's see what this one said. It said, the authorities during the Second Temple interpreted the words here rendered as images of stone to denote beholding or worshiping stones, stones set in the ground of places of worship upon which the worshipers prostrate themselves to perform their devotions. Okay, and how are you going to show you're devoted to this man's system? Okay, clearly by taking his charagma. Okay, which there's a stern warning from the men of the Lord here in Revelation, the 14th chapter. Okay, saying in Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed and saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, okay, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. All right, that's going to be the way. All right, people. All right, you're going to be given a choice, and if you're not down with it, okay, if you have a mindset against it, okay, we see in Revelation 20, the mindset is you're beheaded, like you're put to death. You see? So this is a system of you bowing to a god. Okay, you worship the beast in his image, okay, and you pledge allegiance to this god, all right, by what? Taking his charagma, okay, linking, okay, your body to this fourth industrial revolution. Okay, that's what it is. That's what we see happening. See if there's a little bit more here.
A great Roman could also be a double-edged sword, because if you were running away, if you were a fugitive, well, it would make desertion and mutiny extremely difficult and very easy to punish, because already if you were a Roman legionary just going around and you were stopped and you didn't have an actual license, you would be put to death as a deserter. But it would be even easier to recognize you as a soldier if it were tattooed on your arms. So as we said, probably tattoos were on the arms. There is some evidence that might suggest that some tattoos could be on the hands. But did they tattoo the word SPQR? We don't know. So I can't really say that the movie is incorrect. It could be. And it's kind of interesting, and kind of to give you a little bit of a fun fact.
And when you deal with the people who write these movies, they have insight to a lot of information. Some to which even the common public don't have, as they do the research to make their movie. So in that movie, okay, soldiers had, particular, tattoos and brands. Well, it's the same thing here, but guess what? The modern day version of that, okay, is going to be used with his technology. It's simple.
Fact, in Rome, even in our day and age, and being Italian, I can tell you that I saw that myself, but in Rome, the manholes and litter bins still have the word SPQR. So definitely modern Romans like that combination of letters, and I'm pretty sure that ancient Romans did too. The situation with criminals was actually quite similar to that of slaves, but it could be more intense and harsher. So when there was a crime being committed and you had a criminal, you would sometimes mark their skin, oftentimes their forehead, with a detailed explanation of the crime they had committed, which sometimes could also extend to several lines of text. Imagine that. This way, criminals could be easily identified within Roman society, and to do that, charcoal would be used. So the process worked a little bit like this. This is how it's described. The skin was pricked with pins before a mixture of ink and leek juice was rubbed into the wounds. The Latin word for tattoos is stigma, and it's interesting that even in modern day English the word exists, but it does have some relatively negative connotations.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish watching this, but I'm gonna end the video. But this is a real good video. I mean, boom. Hey, knowledge is increasing. On the left-hand side with their technology, and through the Holy Spirit, the men of the Lord are being built up with the information to present the right doctrine to the people. Okay, because pursuant to these guys from the Wi-Fi, which the Wi-Fi code is you wrong, that ain't something that we have to worry about. That ain't anything we need to bring out. We're driving ourselves crazy looking up too many articles, but now we know that in ancient Rome, as you've openly declared, America is the revival of Rome, used tattoos, brandings to identify people, okay, to limit them in society. Okay, well, how are they going to do that today? Anyway, hopefully you all were edified. I'm going to leave it there. On to the next. Shalom. Stigma.